welcome to today's session on investing in artificial intelligence. Very happy to have all of you to join us for Ventures Group's flagship event, the Smart City Tech Week. So Ventures Group is a city tech business builder and investor. I'm Jietan, a co-founder of Ventures Group based in Beijing, and I will be your moderator today. So in this session, we are very honored to have two experienced AI entrepreneurs to join us and to share their insights into this exciting sector. Without further ado, I will let them to introduce themselves. Starting from Dr. Song Li. Song, please.
Hi, my name is Song Li, and I'm an investment banker turned internet entrepreneur. After I earned my PhD in finance, from Columbia University, I joined Wall Street as an investment banker, and I worked for a number of companies as an equity derivatives dealer. And my last job in the investment banking industry was an executive director with Morgan Stanley Asia in Hong Kong. So, and after that, I quit my job in finance and decided to try something new. And I always wanted to build something from the ground up. And since I didn't know how to run a restaurant or factories, I decided that the closest thing to finance was internet business, because that seems to attract people who had no specialty in anything. So, that's how I jumped in.
Thank you, Song. So our second guest is Charles Kuai. Charles, could you give me a brief self-introduction?
Okay, John, Song, how are you? Thank you. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to everybody. I know you'll be joining from different locations around the world. I'm Charles Kuai. I'm a corporate serial entrepreneur. The reason I use corporate is because I've spent many years in large corporations, scaled them, and I've also spun out many companies. My career spans 32 years, mostly in the technology sector. I've actually built ventures in the US, in Europe, and in Asia. And I have been fortunate to have experienced the three major cycles of technologies over the last 30 years. I built 4 mobile ventures across the world 30 years ago. I was involved in mobile internet and broadband, successfully built large-scale networking companies. And in the last 12 years, I've been very busy building, and we've listed a company on NASDAQ, very successful company in artificial intelligence. Our company, the one that I co-founded, is called Cerence. It's the #1 company in the world in applied artificial intelligence for the world of mobility. We ship in 600 million cars, roughly about 50 to 60 million cars every year. So think of it, anything that moves. And with that, you know, I've been able to elegantly harness together what I call the journey of taking deep tech, new tech to big tech, whether it's mobility, whether it's internet, or today, artificial intelligence. It's really solving two critical problems. How do you commercialize and how do you scale? And I retired early part of this year, but I've decided to form a venture, I call it K2 Intelligence, is really focusing on assisting large companies in this transformation, going from a physical world to a digital world to what I call an artificially intelligent or applied intelligence world in scaling. Excited to be here, and back to you, John.
Thank you, Charles. So next, we will have Song to give us a brief presentation.
Okay. So good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. And my name is Song Li, and I'm an investment banker turned serial internet entrepreneur, and I have previously built two companies. One is web-based, and the second one was mobile-based, and both have been successful, and both were acquired. And I'm starting my third company this time. I wish to build generative AI powered fashion e-commerce platform. First of all, why I want to build something on this nascent generative AI infrastructure. Based on my observation in my 2 decades of tech entrepreneurship, specifically internet entrepreneurship, I have observed something quite interesting. A vast majority of startups end up failing. Statistically, only something like 5% of all startups eventually become successful. And therefore, it's important to think strategically how you can improve your odds of success. And in the past 2 decades that I've been building startups, I have noticed one interesting phenomenon. That is, a good strategy is to build applications or services on top of the latest internet computing platform. So you do that as soon as this new next generation computing platform emerges, because then you would make all your previous competitors irrelevant in some sense, because you're gonna take a risk and take advantage of paradigm shift and do something new. Of course, you would end up taking some risk by doing so, but try to compete in an overcrowded space is, in my opinion, even more risky than taking on something that's new and take a bet on the big trend. Now, interestingly, whether coincidental or not, internet computing platforms seem to go through this 14-year cycles. So back in 1994, after Mark Andreessen and Jim Clark launched Netscape, the world's first web browser, and an ecosystem of web-native apps and services were created on top of this first internet computing platform. And that lasted for about 14 years until 2008, in which year Steve Jobs launched App Store. And then a new ecosystem of mobile native apps and services were born. That lasted for another 14 years until last year. So in November last year, something extraordinary happened. There was the emergence of an application called ChatGPT, which is a interactive application built on top of the large language model GPT. And I believe that this will create a new ecosystem of generative AI native apps and services, just like what we witnessed in the previous 2 cycles. And so each time when we have a computing platform shift, the user interface changed. So the first, we had a web as the computing platform. The user interface is, of course, is a website. And when that platform shifted to mobile platform, user interface became a mobile app. What I believe is that with generative AI infrastructure, in the future, the user interface between consumers and between the users and the back-end services, apps and services will be based on virtual assistants or virtual agents. That's the big change, because this fits more like how people interact in a more natural setting. Okay, that's my belief. And so this is at the very beginning. So again, I'm gonna deploy the same strategy as I have done before. So I built my first company on top of a web, and my second company on top of a mobile platform. Now I see the emergence of next and a third computing platform. So I decide to build applications on top of this new platform. Okay, that's my strategy. The question is, why now? Now, people, when we talk about artificial intelligence, AI, right, and people talk about it as if it were born yesterday, right? That's not the case. As a matter of fact, the kind of AI we're talking about, a very specific AI, it's generally called generative AI, which is different, very different from the traditional AI, or people call it analytical AI, very different. Now, traditional AI focuses on recognizing and predicting language patterns, or recognizing and predict visual patterns. Okay, and so traditional AI has been deployed in many fields for decades, 2 decades now, right? And case in point is Amazon and Netflix, and so that's what we did with traditional AI. Unfortunately, the value of traditional AI had been accrued to essentially the existing tech giants. Startups didn't really benefit that much. One of the main reasons is that for startups, you have this classical code startup problem. So compare a startup to existing like incumbent company. You don't have data to begin with. So if you use traditional AI, you got a problem because you have nothing to train your model on, right? So you have this very difficult code startup problem. So the good news is that with the emergence of generative AI, this has really leveled the playing field, right? Playground, narrowed the gap between incumbents and the startups. Now, incumbents still have a lot of advantages, right? Because they already collected a lot of data. But at least for a startup, you can take a generic, foundational model such as ChatGPT or Bot, or Meta's Llama, and then you can, because they have some general knowledge, like they have encode the general knowledge into their parameters. Therefore, you can, launch your service with, you can build your apps on top of these generic models. And at least you can get this thing started. Then you start to collect data and fine tune your models, right? To fit your specific needs, right? So you don't have to start everything from scratch when you don't even have any data, right? So this has significantly narrowed the gap between startups and incumbents. Another thing is that now you have all these tech giants around the world creating these foundational models. As a startup, you kind of have a global R&D on demand, R&D center on demand. So that would drastically lower your cost of starting your company. So generative AI, broadly can be put into two different categories. One is one class is language models. That's for text. The other one is vision models. So, but the trend is that these two models are merging into multi-model generative AIs. So that means that you can encode text, images, and videos, and output text, image, and videos. And so things are happening very fast. And so what I would like to do is to build a generative AI-based fashion e-commerce platform. Right? Now, why do I specifically choose fashion, this product category? Because the two core capabilities of generative AI lie in its ability to generating versatile visual presentation, as well as understanding language and making inferences from such understanding. So fashion is a perfect use case because fashion by its very nature involves image, certainly, videos, and the product description, right? In natural language. So when people describe what they want, they tend to use natural language, right? And before the emergence of generative AI, traditional AI is not very good at interpreting natural language. So this newly emerged generative AI will solve this problem to a large extent. So this is at a very high level what we want to build. So we're going to have a front end and back end. The front end has a virtual assistant, right? As I believe that the future UI will be changed on the new platform or become, everyone's going to use a virtual assistant so that it can interact with humans, understand the humans' natural language. And we have we will build storefronts for our brand partners, and we will provide a 24/7 generative customer service. And on at the back end, we will provide a personalized product recommendations by leveraging generative AI, and of course we're gonna collect payment.
So I think you have shared share with us the personalized fashion advisor. Could you provide more insights into how AI can help to make more contribution into personalized customer experience? What other advancement or what other things that may happen in the future can further improve the customer experience?
Okay, so I've been always interested in one type of business model, that is some kind of a marketplace, that is a place where you have buyers on one side and the sellers on the other side, and or you have a content creators one side, and you have a content consumers on the other side, or in the case of a dating, you have kind of, you kind of have like women on one side, a man on other side, right? But it's the same idea. It's a two-sided marketplace. The reason why I'm interested in this is very, very much like finance, the closest to finance. So it's easier for me to understand. And the second reason is that once you build a scale, the moat is very high. Actually, once you have like over 100 million users for a marketplace, it's almost impossible for other people to break, to compete with you, because it's you've solved this very tough problem, a chicken and eggs, like cold start problem. So I only specialize in one type of business, that is, marketplace essentially, right? So that's one. And then why I specifically choose a fashion, not because I'm a fashionista, as you can see. That's because generative AI, basically the core capabilities of generative AI lie in creating versatile visual presentation and understanding language and making inferences from language. And the fashion is a perfect use case industry for this, because fashion by its nature, involves text, images, and videos, right? I like to use all generative AI's power, so I choose fashion. The other reason is that it's got a very large addressable market. As a matter of fact, fashion is the single largest category in e-commerce. So I want to start with fashion. Obviously, if someday I successfully build a marketplace, we can expand it into adjacent market. But right now, I really want to focus on fashion because it leverages both computer vision and language models.
Thank you, thank you for a very thorough answer to my question. So to basically share like how generative AI can better connecting the dots along the whole procedure, from the supply chain to the customer service, to better serve our customers. So right now, I want to actually turn to Charles. Charles, I know you are very successful in mobility, and you right now are working on your new venture, K2 Intelligence, which is focused on education and healthcare. So I want to get your insights about how AI, or the generative AI can help the two industries, education and healthcare. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, John. I think Sung did a good job in laying out what is artificial intelligence, and he also laid out the building blocks of the artificial intelligence and how you can apply it. So if you look at education, what is education? Education is about teaching, learning, assessing, and counseling. That's education. And then when we think about artificial intelligence for the last 12 years, it's context understanding, contextual awareness, personalization, and automation. So there's a 4x4 block. So think of it, in each one of those, you can actually apply some solutions to it using generative AI or large language models or artificial intelligence. But in reality, it's really solving two critical problems. One is what I call extend, and one is what I call expand. So I'll just use the US market as an example. The US market, the higher education and K through 12 and continuing education is the entire education market. Just K through 12, just an example, K through 12. Just the public sector of K through 12, it's $800 billion US. This is about the same size as the defense budget. It's about 70% of the entire healthcare budget. It's massive. Off of this, about $500 billion of this is in people, whether it's educators, teachers, administrators. And we also know that it takes about 22 years to manufacture a teacher, from birth to finishing university. The second thing, we also know there's burnout of teachers. The third thing we know, there's less teachers coming in. So artificial intelligence, especially in this particular field, it can actually help expand, which gives us more automatic, lifting some of the work that teachers need to do. For example, generating quizzes very instantaneously. For example, assessing students, as well as customizing their learning. So it allows us to really build what I call personalized learning at scale. So it's really solving that problem. Similarly, in healthcare, that we already see some of that. So the company that I co-founded, Cerence, is actually a spinoff from Nuance Communications, which is now a Microsoft company. Today, Nuance or Microsoft powers 680 to 700,000 physicians in the United States. So all doctors in the US, when you go and visit them, that you are actually having a conversation with your doctor. There's an ambient examination room, which the doctors then basically goes through the question and answer. And the question and answer, there's a virtual agent there that's capturing that journey of that visit. And with that visit, then you have things, for example, to remind the doctors the history of that patient, to give the doctors, hey, based on these examinations, this is potentially the medical condition. That's slightly different from case to case. Also with this, you can also have follow-ups to the patients based on their progress and diagnosis. I mean, we can spend about 2 or 3 days just talking about these two subjects. The healthcare industry, just in the United States, it's, as I said, it's about 1.5 times the size of the K-12 education. Is about $1.2, $1.5 trillion in terms of every year, just the budget alone. So it's a massive, massive space, these two. And the reason I focus on these two is because I believe humans are going to also expand their longevity. When they expand their longevity, really you need to basically have a better health, a healthier health, a happier health, and these are all related to healthcare and education. And then you have to have entertainment, which I think some of that is Sung is trying to solve. You buy things, you enjoy things, you consume things. So that's what I think humanity is going to move towards.
Okay, thanks. So a bit more on the education side. So you talk about like, so it can help, to generate the quizzes and to help to do student assessment. Just on the assessment side, so how do you think the AI-powered assessment tool actually can contribute to more accurate and timely evaluation of student performance, and also actually can give you actually very efficient and positive feedback to students to help them to improve better?
That's an excellent question. So think about it this way. I'm going to use an analogy, and then I'm going to show it how it's applied in education. So you go and see a doctor maybe once a year if you are actually very diligent. Most likely people see a doctor every 3 years, physical examination, right? And then, but today we have lots of wearables, and people basically measure all kinds of things to kind of see how they're doing health-wise in terms of making living healthier. I think education is going to go through that journey too. In education today, we assess students twice a year, which is during midterm and final exams. And that doesn't really give you enough data points whether the student is really learning, excited, understand. With these advancements of artificial intelligence, you could create custom questions for that particular student in order to motivate them to get better, faster, and also to help them understand areas they don't. Just take a look at mathematics as an example. Mathematics, which is a subject Sung knows very well, and I know very well, it has trigonometry, linear algebra, it has arithmetic, it has many, many, many sectors. Some Some students are probably very good at arithmetics, but not very good at trigonometry because they don't understand spatial, right? So for the arithmetic, they can move faster. For trigonometry, they can move slower. So I think increasingly we will have a continued learning experience where the journey of learning doesn't start at K and end at 12 or end after 4 years university, but it will be continued. And in order to power this thing at scale, customized learning, I think that would require tremendous artificial intelligence powering that, because it's really solving a problem of matching the proper content with the proper consumer at the proper time for the proper purpose. So that's how I see education actually changing. Also, another advantage I have is I serve on Kellogg School of Management's advisory board for artificial intelligence. So I have a somewhat unique vantage to kind of see how the higher education is evolving in this. And one of the key things Kellogg did was actually, as you know, Kellogg is the premier leading business school. We've actually created a new program called MBAI, which is really using business application with a tremendous focus on artificial intelligence. It's a joint program between Kellogg School of Management and McCormick School of Engineering to use the power of AI in business applications. So we're beginning to see a lot of that. So I look at it from an entrepreneurial vantage point. I look at it from a market vantage point, and also look at it from a vantage point serving on the advisory board of a leading business school globally, how they're looking at this problem.
Great. Another question is actually on that is like, I think, with the automatic tools, and actually a lot more people can actually get access to quality education. However, some pretty teachers or schools may get a priority into that. How, in your opinion, actually, how can actually AI can provide more equity and more quality education for all of the people, or basically all the students and all the children across the globe, and in terms of the education equity, and everyone can get it, the education as they desire. Yeah.
Well, that's a great question. I mean, if you look at connectivity, you look at internet, it's already allowed better equal access. I think with artificial intelligence, it will help actually through the recommendations, the connection for more access, right? So you have students today, both in China, in the very rural areas, or Africa, or India, able to take Coursera courses from the leading universities, right? And increasingly, you will have basically these, what I call virtual assistant teaching assistants that some of the leading schools that will be actually launching. And these could actually serve as junior mentors for these students. So it's one thing to actually take a linear course where it's more of a broadcast, and another thing is interaction. And then also, as you have more interaction, you can have more assessments. So once you have all this kind of automation happening at the background, then I think it provides more equal access globally, not just within one context of one country. The second thing is then when you have great teachers, and all of us have experienced some great teachers, they're just great storytellers. They're motivational in actually inspiring you to want to learn this. But even the best and the greatest teachers don't have the corpus of all knowledge of their subject. It's impossible, right? I think with this advanced artificial intelligence, it allows students who are motivated, interested in a particular subject, whether it's be finance, mathematics, music, whatever, they can actually then have a journey, what I call personalized journey in learning about that subject. So I think these two things will actually provide equality. However, we do have to be mindful as we are building, and this is very early stage. I've been in artificial intelligence for 12 years. Now I see every company, every entrepreneur trying to do artificial intelligence. The important thing to remember is you need to have a data strategy, you have to have a business strategy to commercialize and scale. But at the end, really you need to build a business, a system, a solution, a platform that is trustworthy, that is non-biased, that is safe, and that is ethical. And these are things that humans are going to add in terms of the mix, right? So we want to basically make sure that we do train the next generation of students in order to have high ethics, non-biased, trustworthy users of this technology, and also to do it safely.
Okay, thank you, Charles. So yeah, just on the ethical issues, so I actually have a question for both of you. So as the song actually talk about, virtual avatars and the personalized fashion advisors, and you talk about, Charles, you talk about like virtual teaching assistants, etc., etc. So maybe, do you see any potential concerns or drawbacks associated with the application of the AI technology, and especially in some sensitive spaces? So Song, you go first.
Yeah, I think I've been using all this chatbot, right, from Google, from OpenAI, and at this stage, statistical data is not reliable yet, right? If you can try that, right? So I wouldn't do make a financial decisions based on what you get from these these language models, right? So still very unreliable, inconsistent. As a matter of fact, if you know the principle based mathematics behind this, they are still essentially they're doing auto regression in some sense. Therefore, it's a proper. They try to predict next word or next whatever, based on some probability distribution, essentially. Therefore, there's certain randomness to it, right? And so even with the same model, you ask the same questions and you generate different variations, which is what you want if you want to write an article or something. But when you create you want to compile some financial data, that's not what you want. So that's it's not generative AI is still not, like Charles said, right? Artificial intelligence itself is a marketing buzzword, right? Essentially, if you know the mathematics behind it, it's just try to, to its most oversimplified term, you just try to fit the curve, essentially, right? So, and so if you use it at this stage, right, it's still more useful for things that does not require accurate information, like something like a Vegas. So it's perfect for artistic kind of work. But if you want to use it for finance, for example, you have to be very, very careful right now, right? I wouldn't trust the models to make financial decisions yet. And of course, other issues, if you have bad actors, you may use it to generate deep faked news, for example, to influence people, right? These are the issues that we all have to solve collectively as a artificial intelligence community, both entrepreneurs, academics, researchers, and regulators, perhaps.
Yeah, sounds, thanks. So Charles, could I get your perspective on this?
So I think when you look at ethics, I think there's a couple of things. We have to define what that means. Then my recommendation is we need to define a process, how you actually transact that. Ethics, if you look at it, there are many, many pieces of ethics, but the most important one probably, or the most prevalent one, is trustworthiness. So you have to decide, what does that mean, whether you're a government or an enterprise or a platform? What does trustworthiness mean? In the rawest sense of trustworthiness is what you offer, is what you commit, is what you're going to deliver, right? So, so that's the most basic foundation. Humans have also ethical problems. We have processes today to make sure that these ethical behaviors are not inside the company, right? So for example, if you have a food company, you want to make sure it's food safety. You don't want to make sure it's like poisonous stuff in the food business. But we do see some of that happening. But these are processes. So imagine when you have all this technology getting generated by partners or open source, how do you make sure that what is actually put into the raw ingredient is going to lead to ethical solutions and non-biased solutions? So my recommendations to my partners, clients is, first of all, you need to, as a leader, to be aware that this is a very important matter. Second of all, just like other very important things, whether it's audit or security at the board level, you need to have an AI board member to really help you navigate this very, very complex world, right? To understand it from the data, from the algorithms, from the testing, from the deployment. And also, if there is an ethical event happens, how are you going to deal with it, right? It's a crisis management situation. So I think companies or organizations that are prepared are going to do better. And the ones that are not prepared are not going to do well. And the ones that are aware of it are more likely to be prepared. So that's what I do believe. And also, lastly, ethics changes. Ethics is a relative thing from country to country, geography to geography, culture to culture, right? There's a religious element. There's a lot of elements. So you need to be aware of those, sensitive to those, and actually thoughtful about those.
Yeah, I just to Charles' point. Now, right now, people try to use reinforcement learning technology to incorporate the human's value, right? Into so you generate something, and then you have a bunch of people, to pick the ones that kind of stick to certain ethical standards. The problem, of course, is that when it comes to human values, different countries have different values because of their cultural traditions and or there's whatever their special circumstances. That's why I think it's important at the macro level. You have countries work together to at least establish some common denominators. Like those are the basic. Despite the differences in our cultural values, these are the minimum things that every country should stick to. And this is going to be very challenging because I think that I'm so excited to be alive at this most, I think, transformative moment in 200,000 year history of our species, because this is the first time that we start to challenge the last unique asset, which is our intelligence. This is something that has separated our species from other species in the animal kingdom. So this is really the most, in my opinion, most transformative moment in history of Homo sapiens. So, and no one knows what the answer is, and the field is moving so fast. Like, every week some new products have come out. So it may take some time for us to find out the solutions, but these are indeed very much something that we all people in our industry should pay close attention to.
Okay, thanks, Song and Charles. So Charles, you touched a little bit on the scalable commercialization of AI in your education space. I actually want to ask about in the healthcare space. Are there any particular areas that you have seen, AI has made an extraordinary progress or success in some subsectors, and so in terms of commercialization or application of technology? Could you share a bit about that?
Well, two that come to my mind that are actually quite dramatic that we've experienced that during the last 3 years. One is COVID. The mRNA technology, you can think of it as a large model that's run on large scale computing that allows you to really break down the protein mixture and create what I call a reverse solution to the protein. That is probably the most impactful one that I've seen in the healthcare industry, right? So because if you look at mRNA technology, was initially built for something else, and then they've applied it to solving that COVID virus problem. That shows that you can actually take a solution and drive it at scale. The second thing with healthcare is, as you know, during COVID, suddenly everybody had to be remote, right? And as people become remote, then how do you really have the same infrastructure where you're able to visit your doctors and actually clinical medical documentations are taken care of? Because once you take the clinical medical records into the system, it's for regulatory reasons, for insurance reasons, it's for historical reasons, it's for security reasons, all of that. And I saw a launch between Nuance and Microsoft before actually Microsoft acquired Nuance, was team sessions when you're visiting with doctors. There is that, so you can think of it as a virtual nurse on the side that's capturing the conversation that you're having with your doctor. So the doctors are able to take the entire infrastructure that they have in the conversations with the patients in the examination room to a virtual examination room. And I see this is just the beginning of many, many things to come. And then last but not least, so the most thing I'm excited about is with this advancement of deep machine learning, whether it's generative or non-generative, is it's about pattern recognizing, right? As you recognize more patterns, you're going to discover new diseases. And as you discover new diseases, you're going to discover new treatments. So I think the disease discovery and the treatment discovery will get accelerated for the sole purpose to allow us to live longer and healthier at scale and more economically.
Okay, thanks, Charles. So next question also for both of you. And so Ventures Group, so we are investing in city tech, and sustainability is a big part of that. So Charles, in your opinion, how can AI is expected to enhance the sustainability efforts of all the corporations and organizations in the future?
Well, City, as you know, we don't live just as a global platform. We actually have local communities, right? And if you talk about sustainability, I'd argue about probably climate change or climate risk is the biggest problem of existential threat that we all face together collectively as a human species, more so than getting disrupted of our intelligence. And when you look at it in the city, it's about what is connecting resources with actual users. And with this technology, you're able to become a lot more efficient in terms of what I call arbitraging resources and uses, right? And for example, you have already technologies that eventually, if you have more robotic mobility transportations, and where are the sources of the demand of the transportations, you're gonna route a much more efficient route that uses the least amount of energy, whether it's fossil fuel-based energy or electric-based energy, right? So it's gonna be a lot more efficient. I think the more efficient use of our resources, whether it's renewable or non-renewable resources, will allow us to actually have a more sustainable cities, right? And then also with these advancements of technologies, you can also apply it to have a more safer environment, right? Safety in terms of capturing bad actors, to safety in terms of ensuring that there are protections. So for example, if there are construction areas that there may be automatic robotics capturing devices that some of the people on this call may be building that allow instantaneous ability to protect and support and enable a safer environment. So I think it's about resources, allocation, and safety are the two bigger things that I think from a city sustainability it is.
Now, to Charles' point about leveraging AI technology to improve efficiency, I fully agree with him. And in the context of fashion industry, when fashion brands manufacture their products, actually it's like making movies. Probably only 2 out of 10 styles will sell, right? And so 20% of their products probably generate over 80% of the revenue. So the remaining, a lot of them basically got thrown away or burned because of high cost of maintaining those those products that don't sell actually is higher than just burning them, which of course will create a lot of hazard to the environment. So AI could substantially reduce the waste, and which is good for the environment.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, a city is what? A city is to make sure the citizens live a healthier, longer life, right? It's making sure that the mayors of all cities are focused on healthcare. They're focused on education. They also focus on making sure the resources are done correctly, less waste, more efficient use, and safe. And all of those four elements, artificial intelligence is going to make it much more cost efficient to have these cities run better, basically.
Okay, thanks. My last question for you is actually a big question. I think every investor and entrepreneur is thinking about it right now. Is actually, what do you see as the most significant and exciting opportunity in AI in the coming years? So Charles,
for me,
Charles, you go first.
Yeah.
So I think Charles will go first, and so
okay.
You can, yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, I would recommend for any investor, first learn about the space, right? And then second, really at the end of the day, you have to think. I think the Chinese statement of artificial intelligence is probably more wise than any other language. It's called 人工智能, means human power plus intelligence. So the question is, what part of human power intelligence you want to automate at scale and at cost? So don't get so mesmerized where, oh, this is an application that is AI, so it's worth a lot more money. I remember back in the .com in the 1996, there were people selling batteries online, but they didn't even have the infrastructure to deliver the batteries. So for every battery that was delivered, that they made a dollar, they were losing 3. That's not a good business. So at the end of the day, when you look at it from a business and investment perspective, you look at it from 2 angles. One is there an application? Can it scale? And is there a cost advantage? Because at the end of the day, there has to be a cost advantage. Then layer on top of that, what are the risk factors? The risk in terms of the market risk, the timing risk, the opportunity risk. Once you apply those 2 frameworks on it, I think you probably filter it down to just a few very important things that you should invest in. And last but not least of all, just like any technology, start with the common denominator, right? So if you look at it during the Industrial Revolution, the first guys that made money are the axe and shovels, the people that actually allow Industrial Revolution to get constructed. And then the second layer are the people that actually build the factories. And then eventually is the product companies. So these are probably 2 angles that I would recommend. If you have any questions, you could reach out to me. We'll help you with navigating some of those questions. But back to you, Sung and Jia.
Yeah, thank you, Charles. Song, your take?
So the reason I'm so excited about generative AI is that I've been tracking this for a while now. AI per se has been used quite effectively by companies such as Amazon and Netflix, right, for like 2 decades. But this time is different. When people say artificial intelligence, right, you want to be careful about what they're talking about. Now, before that, traditional AI basically focuses on pattern recognition of the data. But this time is different because this go beyond pattern recognition. This actually generate and synthesize new data. Now, granted, the new data is based on the patterns of existing data in the samples. But this makes a lot of difference for startups. Before generative AI really emerged, right? The value of AI was mostly accumulated to the existing tech giants because they got the data and it was really features, right? There was no platform shift. What really has changed this time is that the underlying internet computing platform for applications has shifted, in my opinion. And startups would only have opportunities when you see that you have the computing platform shift. Then you have opportunity. If it's just a feature, right, the most values will go to existing, you will go to incumbents, basically. The reason why now startups have opportunities. So before this, right, if I start a company, I have a cold start problem. If I have nothing, I have no data, right? And against a large company, the large company already have a data set. And so you have this problem. How do you do cold start? Now, what you do is that you can leverage the existing generic foundation model, right? It's like a global R&D on demand. And it's non-specific, but you can cold start with them. It's like you have someone who's got an average IQ of, let's say, 110, right? You have some knowledge about fashion, common knowledge, but you're not, you have not gone to, fashion institute, fashion school, right? And so, but at least for startup, I can take that. We start from, a basis of 80%, right? And then you can launch it. You can start to collect the data, and then you can specialize. Before, it's like you have to start from zero. And then you had no chance against the existing, giants. That's the problem. And another thing is that it's especially in the areas that accuracy is not so important. That applies to any artistic area like fashion, like advertising, movies, any artwork, where which do not require precise, like accuracy is not so important. Generative AI is great, right? It's a subjective, and you can generate a lot of copies. You can iterate fast. You can do quick A/B testing. So that's why this is, in my opinion, third and a new computing platform change for our internet industry. I strongly believe that a new ecosystem of generative AI native apps and service will emerge. I'm pretty sure of that.
Okay, thank you, Song. So actually, Charles has a hard stop, and so big thank you to all two of you and to participate in this session. So I have to conclude this session. So let me just record the conclusion to the audience. So Thank you, everyone. So here we are sharing insights into artificial intelligence. We hope you have gained something valuable from today's session. Once again, you are watching Ventures Group's Smart City Tech Week, and we wish you a great day ahead. Thank you. Bye-bye.